Good morning, Mr. Zatola here, and we are going to try something a little different. Some notes, highlighting, and just some really important points you need to know when you're doing the endocrine and what leads into the reproductive system packet. So, starting with the endocrine system packet, of course, we are going to look at paragraph 1, and there's a couple things I really want you to understand about the endocrine system. Unlike the nervous system, we're dealing with a slow-acting, long-release system, okay? So we have some glands that release hormones to specific areas, specific ducts, and those are exocrines. But then there's more glands, and there's specifically glands that release hormones, and those are endocrine glands. And that's what we're going to focus on. Endocrine glands release hormones directly into the bloodstream, which, as you can imagine, flows around the entire body. So if these are flowing around the entire body, that means they could react with almost all cells. But truth be told, only some cells react because they're the only ones that they interact with. Kind of like an enzyme that has a very specific shape. In this case, we have a situation where the hormone only deals with the receptor shape it needs to, which means only certain cells get affected. So just the hormones are chemicals, all right? They're made of, they're made in the body, okay? They pass around the body, and if they find the right cells, the target cells, they find the binding site, they bond with the receptor, and then they act. They act with the cells. So taking a look here, there's two types of hormones. There's steroid hormones, which you've probably heard of steroids. The steroids you're thinking of are probably like human growth hormones and things like that. They build muscle, they make you stronger, they make you bigger. The thing is, a lot of those are synthetic. They're made by companies, or they're taken from other organisms or even humans. Okay? The steroid hormone, what you need to remember, crosses the cell membrane and actually reacts with the genetics of that cell. It triggers the genetics on. The non-steroid hormone, on the other case, does not cross the cell membrane. It has to find the cell with the correct target, okay? The correct receptor, and it has to find what they call the target cell. All right, it doesn't react with all cells. Whereas like the human growth hormone can be injected into any part of the body and it will grow. But that's not healthy. Okay, the endocrine system is controlled by a feedback, which I hope you've been reviewing, feedback mechanisms. All right, they help maintain homeostasis. Homeostasis is the balance, right? We've talked about this word a number of times, and by now you should really have an understanding of the balance. Sometimes it's decreasing, or inhibition brings down whatever the hormone's triggered. And sometimes it increases. It reacts and pushes the hormone trigger further. And we're going to go into this a lot more. All right, let's take a look at the endocrine glands. So starting at the top in the brain, we have a few glands. The pituitary gland, okay, it secretes a whole lot of hormones. On your project, you're going to see pituitary gland. We have four different hormones you have to identify, and then give me the function of them. So again, pituitary gland in the brain, but the pituitary gland is controlled by the hypothalamus. All right, the hypothalamus is like the master. It tells the pituitary gland what to tell the other glands to do. And we're going to look at that a little further with some diagrams down the road. So the hypothalamus tells the pituitary gland what to do. The pituitary gland releases hormones to activate other parts of the body, other hormones to be released, okay? So let's get into some of our glands. The thyroid gland, okay, that's right up in your chest right here. If you can see in my little picture, let me show you. So that's right up in here. A lot of times people have thyroid issues, okay? The thyroid gland releases thyroxine. All right, it controls the metabolism. It regulates your body's ability to use nutrients and release wastes. Okay, on that thyroid as well, there is something called the parathyroid. These are little dots on the thyroid. They control blood calcium levels. Again, that's part of your growth system, right? Your bones need calcium. They need to be controlled by the parathyroid, all in unison together. Moving on, we see our adrenal gland, which you've probably heard. These are right on top of your kidneys. The adrenal glands do not release adrenaline. They release endorphins. This is the fight or flight mechanism hormone. You've probably had an endorphin rush, or some people call it adrenal rush. It prepares you to deal with stress, whether it's strength or alertness or the ability to get out of the way really fast. Or even the reaction to loud noises, all right? This is the fight or flight. That's the adrenal glands. The next one, and probably one of the most important, you're definitely going to hear about it, is the pancreas. The pancreas secretes hormones, exocrine, as well as releases hormones into your blood, endocrine. The big thing with the pancreas is it keeps the level of glucose in the blood stable. This is insulin and glycogen, okay? It tells the body when to release insulin when the blood sugar's high, and it tells the body when to release glycogen when the blood sugar is low. Okay, the final glands we're going to talk about, these down here, are the reproductive glands, probably the most popular because you're teenagers. So the reproductive glands are, in the females, are called the ovaries, and in the males, they are called the testicles. All right, a couple of important items with these and what they produce. So first thing you have to remember is the term gonad refers to any human reproductive organ, any human reproductive gland. So the gonad, we all have them before we're born, and then the genetics of our body, our DNA takes over and tells us whether the gonads are going to be female or male. Okay, the female gonad, all right, it's the ovary and it makes eggs. Okay, that's for reproduction, and the male gonad, the testicle, produces sperm, again, for reproduction. All right, so let's take a look at some of these different hormones. Let me just bring this over. So the first thing we have is the steroid hormone. Again, the steroid hormone actually passes directly through the cell membrane. It heads right through the cell membrane. It finds a receptor. It binds to a receptor into a hormone receptor complex. That hormone receptor complex then enters the nucleus, and it affects the DNA and finally the RNA, which leaves and has a lot to do with protein synthesis, or how the body makes these proteins and what proteins it's making. So the question is, what does the hormone receptor complex bind to? And definitely the DNA, as we see in our diagram. And it says, what are steroid hormones? Well, these head right through, they are nucleic acids, okay? Right into the body, right into the cells. The non-steroid hormones, okay, these don't pass through the cell. These react with receptors on the outside of the cell. That's the target cell. And they won't react with anything but the correct target cell, okay? Once it, once it gets to the target cell, it then tells the cell to alter its function, change how it's going to function, okay? And the questions here is, I'm still working on this, which kind of hormone generally cannot cross? These are the non-steroid, cannot cross the cell membrane is important there. Which of the following is found inside the cell? This is the second messenger inside the cell, okay? So it triggers here, the first messenger. This triggers the second messenger inside the target cell. All right, so that's the part of the reading I really want you to get a handle on. Please work on this next part, which is inhibition, feedback mechanism, inhibition. All right, remember, inhibition means to stop, so this is a negative feedback. Okay. And finally, and in a little bit, we're going to take a look at these glands and the functions. Okay, you try and fill them out, and then look for my my review of it, my answer review. So hope everyone is well. If you need anything, get in touch with me. I have office hours now set up on Monday and Tuesday mornings. Aside from that, you're probably going to get me dealing with my children, and you don't want to contact me when they're running around crazy. But I hope you're all well, and don't forget to, be smart about what's going on right now. And you're living in a time where things are just going a little crazy for you. But hopefully, after our immune system discussion, you'll understand how our bodies are reacting and why we need to stay away from each other. As to bring it back around to science class, hopefully we'll have a vaccine developed soon, and then the world can be a little safer after that. Okay, all right, be well, everyone.